You've probably been teleported out of your sea moth by this thing before. And to most players, it's just another enemy. But the truth is a lot stranger than that. Meet the Warper, one of the most feared creatures in Subnautica. It's frustrating and aggressively forces the player into very dangerous situations. So naturally, most people assume one thing, that it wants you dead. But that assumption might be completely wrong. In fact, the Warper might actually be one of the most important creatures on the entire planet. And once you understand what it's actually doing, every encounter with it suddenly makes a lot more sense. The first encounter with a Warper usually goes the same way for most players. You've just left the safe center of the map. Maybe you're scanning resources or piloting your sea moth to the sunbeam landing, when suddenly a new pair of tentacles appear out of the darkness. But before you can get close enough, it teleports away. You'll find them near most facilities and patrolling the more outer biomes. But by exploring deeper into these places, something changes. Now when you're near a Warper, instead of fleeing, it instantly pulls you out of your vehicle, a sudden teleport that leaves you floating in open water. For a lot of players, this moment is genuine panic. Your safe vehicle is suddenly gone, the Warper is closing in, and the surrounding ocean suddenly feels a lot bigger. Warpers are now appearing suddenly, attacking aggressively, and seem to show up exactly when you're trying to do something important. By the time most players reach the deeper areas of Subnautica, the Warper has already built a reputation, and it seems completely focused on only one thing: you. After a while, something about the Warper starts to feel strange. If the Warper is really trying to hunt the player, its behavior doesn't always make sense. For example, most predators in Subnautica will dominate their respective region, but the Warpers are behaving differently. When you actually map where they appear in-game, a pattern starts to emerge. Warpers aren't spread evenly across the planet. Instead, they cluster around very specific locations: alien facilities, important story locations, and the deepest parts of the ocean. Places connected to the planet's biggest mysteries. Now that alone could just be coincidence, but there's another strange detail. Warpers seem to become noticeably more aggressive as the story progresses. In early parts of the game, Warpers are relatively passive, but later in the game, they become much more frequent and hostile, which raises another strange question. If the Warper really is just another predator, why would its behavior change depending on how far you are into the story? And that's when the Warper stops feeling like an animal and starts feeling like something else entirely. Long before the player ever arrives on planet 4546b, something had already gone horribly wrong. Methodically placed around the world are strange alien facilities, massive structures built by a highly advanced civilization, the Architects. But these structures obviously weren't built randomly. They were built for a purpose. Researching a deadly bacterium known as Kharaa. The Kharaa is a highly invasive alien bacterium capable of infecting almost all life on a planet. One unfortunate day, one of the facilities researching a sea dragon egg was breached by the mother. The Kharaa escaped and began to infect the planet's ecosystem. So the Architects built a quarantine enforcement system made up of large-scale containment facilities, weapons capable of destroying gargantuan spaceships, and deep beneath the ocean, laboratories dedicated to curing the infection. But even with all their technology, the Architects faced one major problem. They couldn't monitor the entire planet on their own, so they created something to help them. Something that would patrol the ocean, detect the infection, and eliminate anything carrying it. To further understand the Warper's true intentions, you have to first look at what it actually is. Because the Warper isn't a normal creature. In fact, it isn't even entirely biological. Information found in facilities and databank entries state Warpers are a hybrid organism, a biomechanical amalgamation created by the Architects themselves. Their bodies are built from living tissue, but integrated with powerful alien technology, which explains their strange abilities that no other natural creature on 4546b possess, that being teleportation, and even the ability to teleport other creatures. including the player. But the Warper's design reveals something even more important. It doesn't have the massive size like the Sea Dragon, nor the crushing strength of a Reaper. Instead, its most impressive trait is control, particularly control over an area and control over a target, which starts to make a lot more sense when you consider the problem the architects were trying to solve. The Warpers were never hunting wildlife, they were trying to protect them. So if Warpers were designed to contain the Kharaa infection, their behaviour suddenly starts to make a lot more sense when you look at the player's infection level. Because Kharaa isn't just a part of the story, it's something the game actually tracks. As the player progresses through Subnautica, the infection slowly advances through several stages. At first, the symptoms are barely noticeable, but over time, the infection becomes more visible. Warpers react differently depending on how far that infection has progressed. Their behaviour can be broken down similarly into several stages. Early in the game, Warpers are mostly passive. They often teleport away, only attacking in self-defense. Encounters are more rare in this stage. At the next infection level, you'll receive this message on your radio.
9 new biological subjects designated. Mode. Hunting. Analyzing. Sharing subject locations with other agents.
Warpers become aggressive, actively hunting the player, and now can teleport you out of vehicles. They will also appear more often in the world. At this stage, Warpers attack more consistently and much more often. You will also receive a second radio call. When translated, it reads this.
Destroyed. Mode. Patrol. New targets unaccounted for. 1.
Indicating something in the game has now marked the player as a priority target. In late game, the infection is visibly severe, with large green pustules appearing on the player. Also, Warpers have the maximum aggression and damage. After the player cures themselves with Enzyme 42, the Warpers stop targeting them entirely, reverting them back to their original, passive state. Once you look at it this way, every Warper encounter starts to make a lot more sense. The Warper encounters players remember as random attacks were actually the planet's defense system responding to a threat. So maybe the Warper really is the most misunderstood creature in Subnautica. Because every time a Warper attacked you, it wasn't because you were in danger. It was because you were the danger.